They might have no skills, they might have an email address, and we help with all that. We look at the hidden job market, and most importantly, we look at how you transfer your skills on paper, and that is really tricky. But we empower you, we teach you to do it yourself rather than do it for you, so that you have that skill moving forwards.
Okay.
And
A question.
sorry,
A question.
to
Oh yeah, very quickly because we've got
just,
loads of
just to,
questions for Lynn as well. Yes, Hardeep. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say that, just going on from that, there's a lot of benefit claims now that are online, and so a lot of people who haven't had sort of IT skills, haven't got IT
Can be
skills,
helped. Brilliant.
again, we can help with that.
Thanks, Hardeep. Let's go to Lynn. Question for Lynn from Jay. If I get in contact with COVID-19, will my employer still give me full pay? Should they?
No. If the it depends on the contract of employment. If he's obviously sick, if he can't go into work, if he's got COVID, so it'll be whatever his contract says he should get for sick pay, but it could just be SSP.
Okay. Also, very quickly, another question to you, Lynn, our legal expert on today's panel. How will companies who misuse the furlough schemes be held accountable for that misuse? And can they be reported, says Lynn to Lynn.
Yeah, well, probably without any. Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of employers, it got thrust on us very quickly, and a lot of employers were using the scheme. Now, are they using it correctly? Have they made mistakes, or have they fraudulently made claims under the scheme? This is really tightening up, and there's a finance bill going through for its second reading in the House of Commons tomorrow, which is bringing in a sort of moratorium in the urge employers to check, have you done it right? Have you made sure you've done it right? If you think you might not have done it right, you've got 30 days to report that to HMRC. And if you don't report it within that 30 days, then you could be facing a penalty.
Should, I suppose, should companies be named and shamed if they're not applying the rule of the law? Very quickly, Laura, yes or no? Should they be named and shamed?
It's a tricky one, isn't it, really? Because you don't want to then affect people that are already employed in that company by naming and shaming them, and then they have less work and they go back to make more redundancies, so then you're not protecting the staff that's already there.
Okay, you're watching a BBC Midlands Today special on employment after COVID-19, after the lockdown. Please get your comments into the live feed. Many of you are. It's wonderful. We've got a key panel from legal, citizens advice and career service here to answer your questions. We have a question for you, Laura, from Mandy. I'm 63 and stand no chance of getting another job if I'm made redundant following the ending of furlough. What good am I, and what jobs are out there that aren't low paid?
What you've got to think of is, at 63, all the experience that you've got and all the skills that you've developed, and that is a really important, really useful resource. I've recently had a woman myself who was a similar sort of age. She's still got loads of life in it, still wants to work until she's 70 plus. And I've been working with her to look at a CV and look at how you change that information on the CV. If you do go on our website on nationalcareers.service.co.uk, there's loads of information about your CV, about your job search, about interviews, about application forms. One thing she might want to do is, on the 23rd of July, between 1 or 2, the West Mids have got a virtual careers fair. So loads of employers are working with lots of employers, lots of different partners, and they're all on Twitter constantly going to be showing vacancies in our for to apply for. So that's a useful thing to get involved in as well. Don't think with 63 that you've got nothing to offer. You've got bags to offer, loads.
Hardeep, a lot of people getting in touch feeling that they're on the job heap, post 50, scared of of the future because they're either on furlough, looking at redundancy, or out of work. What does it do psychologically to somebody who's unemployed, who's over 50?
Well, it's the stress, the anxiety, financial pressure, so the mental health, is at risk as well. So it's just that uncertainty of not knowing how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to look after your family. And then if you've worked as well all your life, not being able to have something constructive to do in your day, that's going to have an effect as well.
Lynn, we have a question here from Fumi in Kenilworth. I am African Caribbean. Have I got a legal leg to stand on in terms of going into a working environment when a lot of people who are dying from COVID are from the BAME community?
That's a really good question, and a lot of employers are doing risk assessments when they go back to work and working out if people from the BAME community are at high risk. There isn't actually a higher criteria or any legal standing that they are at higher risk, but if the employee's under a duty to make sure that they provide a COVID secure workplace, and if anybody's got concerns, whether it be because of BAME or whether it's because they've got family members, just urge them to talk to their employers and air those concerns. But no, there's no extra rights at this time.
Okay, you're doing great, ladies, doing great. I know you've not had a cup of tea, you've come straight out of work from working from home, but you're doing brilliantly. Laura, we have a question from you, from Donna, who says, I am classed as disabled, so think I will struggle to find other employment if they decide they don't want me back. All of you can answer this, but we'll start with you, Laura. Have you got any advice for Donna?
Certainly have. Lots of our customers have disabilities. I have one myself. So I can understand the struggle or the concern and worry you have about that to employers moving forward. So one thing we would look at is doing what we call a job skills match. So rather than focusing on the disability, what she can offer and how to make sure that on a CV it's positive, because lots of people feel like they have to mention disability on the CV. You don't. Everything you get related towards the law. We can teach you to do that, and we can also talk about how to explain disabilities in an interview to make it seem more positive.
Because as we head towards what may be an employment or unemployment crisis, you know, these jobs are going to become scarce and scarce. And Hardy, people who are have disabilities may feel that they've got an extra hurdle to face now that everyone's scrapping for these jobs.
Yeah, and we can understand that. Yeah.
Hardeep, what advice would you give to people?
So, like Laura said, you know, that there should be lots of things. Citizens' advice can sort of offer advice on a bit about the Equality Act and sort of, you know, maybe getting occupational health in to look at, what skills you have or what sort of adaptations they can make to the workplace, to the environment to help them. We'd also look at what benefits, you know, whether they're getting all their benefits. So there are some disability benefits as well that we can have, you know, make sure that they're sort of can tap into.
Thank you very much for all your comments. They are coming through thick and fast. And remember, leave your comments on the live Facebook page that you see in front of you. All the local radio stations across the Midlands are tapped into this evening. We've got another 25-30 minutes to go, so do get your comments in. To the panel, thank you very much from Sue, who's been in touch. I'm 60. I've just been told the home I'm working at is closing. It's a very small home, 5 residents. They're offering me a job at a very big home, which is very hard on our backs, as there'll be so much more physical work. I don't feel I can do this job and I won't have the energy. Where will I stand? I have been there 11 years. I would like redundancy to find a job more suitable. So she's caught between a rock and a hard place, Lynn.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it sounds like it depends. I don't want to say it again. It depends on a contract of employment, but one of the definitions of redundancy is a closure of the place where you work. So if the place where she's working is closing, then that should be redundancy. But her contract might say you pay to work there, but you pay to work somewhere else as well, our other homes. So you know, Sue needs to have a look at that, and we
do people have to get a bit bolshy, you know? Because when you hear redundancy, you kind of feel, well, should I take it? Shouldn't I? You feel conflicted, don't you? But you know, have you got rights to fight for what you want?
Yeah, I mean, there's it's been with us for years. Redundancy is either closure of where you're working or reduction in the need for the work that you do. and alternative employment. When people offer alternative employment, is it really suitable alternative employment? So yeah, I think a lot of time employees should kind of challenge if they do want to take redundancy rather than be forced into other jobs.
Okay, I have one here for you, Hardeep, from Clifford, who says, I'm feeling it very hard at the moment. I feel very depressed, I feel very low. I'm heading towards furlough, but unemployment, because my employer has made it clear that once furlough stops, my work stops. I feel very low, not suicidal, thank goodness, but I feel very low. Any advice that you can give me?
Well, to contact the local citizens advice. We can do a full benefits check to look at what sort of benefits that they might be entitled to, what rights they might be entitled to in terms of, with redundancy pay entitlement as well, the statutory and contractual. We can look into that. But also any other benefits that they might be entitled to, short term and long term, especially around sort of health, if they've got a health condition as well. We can look at sort of disability and sickness benefits as well.
How do people cope with change, though? Because, the problem is, it's very uncertain times. Everything's moving, everything's changing so quickly. I mean, Laura, people are scared.
Yes, they are, and lots of customers that we speak to, and even family and friends, everyone is scared. We know loads of people going through this difficult time. Now, we do have a redundancy triage service, which means that people going for redundancy can fast track and see us really, really quickly. We are running that with lots of partnerships, so that's really useful. And we have got a redundancy webinar that looks at the emotional side of redundancy, the effect that it has, but like the curve of going upwards and learning to accept change and taking control and decisions you can make. And then we go into confidence building, and we do a confidence and motivational webinar as well, which is a nice link on for the redundancy. And then we start looking at empowering people to look at different jobs that are available as well for them.
It's all about confidence, isn't it? We can all agree in these uncertain times, it's about trying to keep that confidence up. A question for Hardeep. Hello from Michelle. I'm 50. I've worked most of my life. I fell into a furlough black hole as was made redundant at the end of February on a closed agreement. The new job I had lined up was retracted on the 20th of March, just before I was about to start. I've been living off my redundancy and minimal job seeker allowance since then, which I only have been given till October. I've got bills to pay. What happens after October if I haven't got a job?
Well, we can look into benefits again, sort of like maybe the long-term benefits. So yeah, New Style Job Seekers Allowance is only paid for 28 weeks. So that, it's only paid for a sort of set period of time. But beyond that, we could look at other benefits, depending on how much redundancy pay they received, because there are capital limits as well. But if obviously that's reduced, then they might be entitled to the income related benefits like universal credit, but also help with council tax reduction. Financial advice we can offer as well. So if there's bills, struggling to pay bills, struggling to pay mortgage or rent.
Yeah, because she does go on to say she's been living off her credit cards. She's really worried, looking forward, what she should do. Should she be consolidating her credit cards, getting off them, trying to get rid of them before her benefits stop?
That's a bit difficult. I mean, it depends on a case-by-case scenario. So it could be that we could, most citizens advice have specialist debt advisors as well, which could look into all the debt options for them, whether that be a consolidation, whether it be a reduced repayment rate. But before they do anything, it's best to speak to a specialist, because they'll look at the pros and cons of each option, and also based on what their the financial position is, what they're able to offer as well.
Can I just add in there, sorry Trish, that you don't have to be unemployed to access the National Careers Service. So rather than, if you think you might be made redundant, rather than waiting, contact us and take control of the situation now to make you feel better about it.
One for you here, Lynn. Claire says she's been on furlough, but her employer hasn't topped up the 20%. Where does she stand legally?
They don't have to top up the 20%. Yeah, they don't have to, and that's going to reduce moving forward, subject to agreeing with the employer, she could try and get another job. I know there aren't many out there, but she could try and top up her wages by getting a second job.
And that's the problem, is it? We know furlough is going to get less from the government, reduced, and therefore there'll be some people that won't be able to get another job, and they'll be stuck on this reduced fee, this reduced wage, Lynn. Did they not have any leg to stand on?
Well, the one thing they can do, that annual leave's accrued while they've been on furlough. So if that's been sort of 3-4 months now, they'll have, a week or 2 annual leave accrued. So that should be paid at the full rate. So they could ask their employer to take their annual leave during their furlough, and that should be paid at the 100%. So that might help out a little bit.
Okay, thank you. If you're just joining us, we're live on the BBC Midlands Today's Facebook page. We are across the regions as well, the radio regions on their Facebook pages, BBC WM, BBC Radio Stoke, BBC Radio Shropshire, BBC Hereford and Worcester, of course, here at BBC CWR. Thank you. Do leave your comments on the live comments page. We've got another one for you, Hardeep. Any options, please? My name's Tony. I have a disability. I get job seeker allowance and PIP benefits because I have to find work. Are there any other options for me, Hardy?
Well, with PIP, we can also look at employment and support allowance. If they're better off sort of going on to, the new style employment and support allowance, or even universal credit. There could be help with council tax reduction. There could be other charitable trust fund applications that can be tapped in.
But Hardeep, can I jump in? We all hear the horrors of universal credit. People are waiting months to get anywhere. You go on the line, you could hardly get through. We're hearing of 14,000 people in front of you on a telephone line. That's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's had some bad press, but I think also that it can work. It works for some people, and they're sort of doing well on it, but there are some people that unfortunately do fall through the system, and maybe who aren't as well versed with the technology, sort of making claims online or sort of handling the claim online, and so they have to go through that route of either going into a job centre, which obviously has been suspended at the moment, or actually sort of phoning the helpline, and they can be on there for half an hour at least before they get through to somebody. But it can work for some people, and we offer a service. The Citizens Advice do help with online claims. So, but we also would help with the navigation through that. So if there was a problem, we can contact Universal Credit on their behalf and try and get things rectified.
All right. You've got about 30 minutes left here on our special Facebook Live on employment here on your regional Facebook. We'd love to hear your comments. Thank you. They're coming in. Another one for you, Laura. My name's Colin. I run a traditional window cleaning business and can't get the staff. They simply don't last. What should I do?
Well, if he's an employer looking for staff, if he contacts the National Careers Service, we run a matrix for vacancies. So lots of customers that we speak to, if we think somebody's a right fit, then we link them with a vacancy for an employer. So if he's looking for people, we can help him fill that gap, and it won't cost him anything at all.
Question for you, Lynn. Mandeep has been in touch. I feel very stressed going back to work. I'm on furlough at the moment. I feel very sick and I feel pressurised to go into work. Have I got a legal leg to stand on?
Yeah, the employer should be providing a safe place to work, a COVID secure place to work. So a lot of people are going to feel nervous about going back if they haven't been there. Communicate. The employers should be perhaps inviting them round out of hours, have a look round, see where your desk is, see where your workstation is, see what everything that's going on. So they should feel safe when they go back to work.
But I suppose the problem, Lynn, is if they complain, there's plenty of people behind them that potentially could do their job. If they feel their employer isn't making their work environment COVID-19 safe, they don't really want to dob them in, do they? Because that has implications in itself.
It's a really, really difficult situation whether an employee will feel safe and secure and reassured that they can raise that with their employer. The majority of employers they can do. I think the majority of employers try to do the right thing and try to help people, but there are provisions in place. There are people they can contact, the HSE, etc., if they feel the working practices are unsafe.
Is there any sort of anonymous phone line for people who are really worried, you know, about any legal issue around going back to work, being out of work, Lynn? Is there anything, any helpline?
Yeah, there is. And when the government released the guidance for the COVID secure workplaces, I think there were about 8 or 10 of them, and they got released initially in May and then moved forward. And every single one of those included health and safety phone numbers, etc., in there that people can ring if they feel unsafe. Obviously, if it's a unionised workforce, there should be workplace ambassadors and that sort of thing in the workplace. All of those recommendations were what good businesses are doing to reassure their employees to come back.
Okay, another one for you, Hardeep, from Teresa, who says, my husband will be unemployed tomorrow. He is 18 months to his state pension age, never ever signed or claimed in his life. We're on the scrap heap. He is feeling incredibly low. Can you help? Any advice?
The short answer to that is yes, we can help. And we could look at, again, the short term would be the job seekers allowance, new style job seekers allowance, but sort of long term, we could look into universal credit again. Also, you know, help with council tax reduction. We'd look at where we can minimise expenses as well. So, you know, help with council tax, as I said, help with mortgage or rent in terms of benefits, but, you know, other help that might be out there as well.
Laura, are there jobs out there? Are there jobs really out there for all of us?
There are. So we've got a vacancy matrix which we started up during this COVID, where a member of our team is constantly searching for jobs in a local area and puts them on the spreadsheet. And every appointment we have, the advisor within that appointment is looking with them live and saying, there's a vacancy here, there's a vacancy here. And I mentioned those virtual jobs fairs, and the West Midlands one is on the 23rd on Twitter. The first two, there was 2,600 jobs advertised just on the first two. So
incredible.
what you need to do,
Incredible.
if you hashtag jobs hour on Twitter on the 23rd between 1 and 2, there's going to be companies, businesses advertising their vacancies live all on that feed. So yes, there are.
Okay, can you just repeat that again in case people didn't get their
I can
pen and
say
paper?
it's on
old-fashioned.
the one for the West Midlands is on the 23rd of July, and it's from 1 till 2. And if you go on Twitter and you hashtag jobs hour, that's what you need to do. And within that hour, we're contacting, we're working with all partnerships, loads of local companies and employers, and they're all advertising their vacancies in the West Mids in that hour.
Okay.
So,
And
there are.
What's your success rate, Laura?
Do you know what? It is really good. We do some tracking with our customers to see how they're getting on, and we're getting people into jobs. I've even got my sister a job during all this.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, that was a lot of work. She's very happy, so she's got a job. So, so there are success stories,
Okay.
and they're getting more as the economy's, you know, it's changing, but it's growing just in a different direction to what we predicted. But jobs are coming up.
I hope your sister gets you.
Exactly.
Well, to be honest, she hasn't got me a present yet, so I think we should drop a few little hints there so she gets me something. A lot of work went into that.
Absolutely. The question for you, Lynn, from Diane. Is it right to be put on 2 weeks annual leave, even though I'm on furlough until the end of July?
Yeah, definitely. So because annual leave accrues while people are on furlough, if everybody then came off furlough and started taking their annual leave, the business isn't up and running again and able to operate. So a lot of employers are telling employees or asking employees to take annual leave while they're on furlough. A lot of people started cancelling their annual leave because they can't go away on holiday. But legally, an employer can ask an employee to take holiday as long as they give them twice as much notice as the holiday requested. So I advise my employee clients to get their furloughed staff to start taking some annual leave at the moment.
Question for you, Hardeep. Hello, Miles says he's on furlough at the moment. He can hardly make ends meet. He's selling everything just to get a bit of extra money. Is he allowed to go to a food bank even though he's on furlough?
Yes. So there's lots of different criteria for sort of food banks. So it could be low income. It's not means tested. So it looks at sort of the reason for the crisis. So that could be furlough. It could be sort of delayed in wages or reduction in income. Debt. It can be anything. It could be sickness. So yeah, they can access.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Just, like I say, go to a local citizen advice to find out if they do qualify for a food bank.
Yeah, I mean, with that, tapped into that, the citizens advice, when they're sort of looking at issuing a voucher, they would also do a quick benefits check. And then that might sort of pick out sort of other help that they might be entitled to as well.
Okay, loads of questions coming in. Thank you so much. We're loving this. Honestly, I'm scrolling down. I hope I can get to your question. And you're doing great as well, panel. Wonderful, really good. Not even coming up for air. A question for you, Laura, from Paul. I'm 56. I've got a heart condition. I've parted on good terms with my last employer just before lockdown. My previous job was a work coach for a housing association. Even with my experience and qualifications, I'm not even getting replies or acknowledgements to my applications. What should I do?
So what's coming to mind there is I'm thinking of what's his CV looking like and how is he filling in the application forms. So what a lot of people are doing is an old school chronological CV and just saying I've worked here these dates. When you're looking for something completely different, you have to then do a skills-based CV. So your first page of your CV looks at all the fantastic things that you've got, all the skills, all your strengths that are needed for the job you're applying for before they've even seen where you've actually worked. So your first page is purely selling yourself for a job, which means that not one CV suits all. You've got to do different CVs for all the different jobs you're applying for.
Gosh, see, this is it. And this is this is a new skill we all have to learn. I'm sort of middle-aged. I won't tell you my age. I won't tell you my age, ladies. But, it is scary. Doing a CV now, I've never had to do a CV for like 20 years. I mean, how do you get around to
and there's a trick to it, and what we aim to do is it's not about going right what job do you want, there you are, there's your CV. That's no use to anybody, because if I've written it for you, if anyone asks you any questions, what are you going to say? Plus, when you want to apply for a different job, how are you going to make those changes? So we're all about showing you how you create different CVs and how you sell yourself in different ways.
But isn't that a lot of work, all 10 CVs for 10 different jobs? I mean, can you pay people to get your CV legally? Lynn, can I get someone to pay someone?
Don't pay somebody, we'll do it for free. Don't waste your money.
You're too busy helping your sister.
I'm friends.
Can people pay people to do their CVs, ladies?
Yeah,
you can, but why? If we're doing it for free, don't waste your money.
Okay.
Not always guaranteed.
Places that can help you do a CV. Yeah. I mean, you can also go online and you can like sample CV.
Yeah, and okay, all right.
Never advise you to pay for a.
I think recruitment consultants at the moment, they sometimes get a bad press, but the ones I'm working with are really, really supporting the coaching. They're really good at confidence building and helping people as well to get them through this.
Yes,
and give them some pointers.
And no white lies on the CV. No little lies. I have been caught out in the past.
Call it embellishing a little bit, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
Highlighting certain things more.
Yes. Let's go to the next question to all of you from Jack. Hello. I've been furloughed since May. I've got a 2-1 degree in visual communications, and the temporary internship I was with ended because of furlough. Any advice for me? I've got mild autism. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm a happy person, but all the news is getting me down. Have you got advice for me? Let's start with you, Hardeep. What advice would you give to Jack?
Well, getting the basics of getting your CV updated as well, and putting that out. Keeping positive. Staying in touch with people and sort of just getting you sort of you're not getting stressed and keeping your hopes up, but also trying to apply for as many jobs as you can, and sort of just tapping into all the advice centres and agencies that are out there.
I don't know about you. I've got a partner. He's a chef. He's on furlough. He has, he's waiting to go back to work. I've got 2 teenagers. One starts to launch his new business. The other one's giving up college because he's down about, the whole way of how everything's gone. As parents, as grandparents, as people that can support families, what advice do we need to do? Especially for the younger ones. We know that between 16 and 24, the figures have shown today that the unemployment has increased by 47,000. What advice can we give? Just, away from our roles, but just as people, as carers, what advice can we give, Lynn? Let's go around.
Well, employment advice. I mean, it's so difficult. My daughter's just graduated from university and there aren't jobs out there. She's managed to find something for a few weeks, and she's got plans for what to do, a gap year with no travel and all that sort of stuff. It is really, really difficult. If it's not the university scene, I think some of the announcements that were made last week with regards to apprenticeships were absolutely unbelievable. And also I've learned some figures today that yes, that is 18 to 24-year-olds, but also apparently about 30% of apprentices are over 25, and those grants are still available for those people who perhaps haven't made the right career choice or want to change. They're in an industry now that's difficult and they want to change. I'm thinking hospitality there. A lot of people might have gone into hospitality and now think they want to change, and those sort of grants are there.
Okay.
But volunteering if they can. But again, all the charities are closed. Everything is closed, so it's really, really difficult for people of that age. Yeah.
Okay. Hardeep, any advice? Have you got children? Are you giving them advice?
I have got a child, but she's only 10, so she doesn't.
No. Yeah, but there's time.
But talking from my own experience, I've worked for the Citizens Advice for over 20 years, but I have taken a break. My last Citizens Advice, I actually took voluntary redundancy from there. So I was in that same situation where I'd worked there for over 14 years. Didn't think that I could, I didn't have any further skills, hadn't been for an interview for years.
So you've been there, so you know what it's like.
Yes, I was really scared. People were telling me, yeah, you've got all these transferable skills, but when you're faced with that situation and that uncertainty, you think, have I made the right choice for one?
Okay.
And when you're actually being made redundant yourself, that kind of choice is taken away from you. So you just have to focus on the positives, and what Laura said about doing that CV where you're actually putting all your skills,
yes,
and transferable skills. Then you think, oh wow, I've
look how much you do. Look how much you do.
Laura, skills you have.
Laura, very quickly with you, because we've got some more questions to come through. What advice are you giving the people around you, and what advice would you give?
It is about trying to stay positive, which is very difficult, but it's trying to get involved in whatever you're in, get involved in your interest in. It doesn't have to be related to work. I mean, I know in our community they have a litter picking group, and lots of people that are on furlough are now doing that. We've even had gentlemen standing outside our local shop as doormen to monitor people coming in for free. And the smiling and the chatting when it's hot weather, people buy them ice creams. So it's like, okay, you might not be able to do so much for work, but get involved in your community. And what will be a really key question is, you go for an interview, I guarantee they're going to be saying, what did you do during the whole COVID? What did you do with your time? So get yourself out the house, socialise, interact, obviously safely, but see what's in your community and get involved, because it'll uplift you and you'll be picking up skills along the way you can talk about down the line.
Wonderful. Okay, let's try and crack through some of the last questions. Hello, Charles, to the panel. I'm 68 and received the state pension at 65. However, I decided to carry on working after that. I was hoping to continue to 70. I've been furloughed for the last 2 months. We've been informed today that redundancy is on the cards. What are the implications for me if I volunteered? He hasn't been there long, Lynn. What are the implications for him?
How long's he been there? How long's he been employed by them?
He's been employed for the last, up to 5 years, actually.
Yeah, so he's, he'll be entitled to a statutory redundancy payment, even though he's over the age of 65.
Should he volunteer for it? Should he do it?
It's up to him. I don't know how much longer he wants to work. The fact that he's over 65 hard, it can probably help me on this, but I don't believe that the employer pays national insurance. So he's probably quite, on payroll costs, he's probably quite, if he's fit and healthy and doing a good job, he's probably quite cost effective for the employer. So it's up to him if he wants to volunteer, but he's entitled to his statutory redundancy if he does volunteer.
Hardeep?
He deferrs his pension as well, so he carries on working. He'll get the extra sort of payments on his state pension when he does take that.
A question here from Anne-Marie, who says, I'm a small business owning a salon. I'm going to have to tell my employees, 4 of them, that I can no longer keep them on. I'm crying as I type this. What advice can you give me?
I mean, that's so sad, and all I can advise is, I know it's emotional, it's a small team and everything, but to make sure that she follows the correct employment law, because at the moment everyone's desperate, everyone's getting lean and mean, and employees will they're faced with no option but to bring claims against employers if they haven't followed the right process. To just protect herself, that she is following the right process if she is going to do redundancies.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of minutes left, so let's end on a positive. Come on, ladies. We know we're going to get through this. We are going to look back on this and think we've got through it. So any tips out there, whether you're on furlough, whether you're looking to get a job, or whether you are looking towards, thinking about redundancy, just your top 3 tips before we go. Laura, I'll start with you.
The first one, I'm obviously going to say, call the National Careers Service. It's absolutely free. 0800 100 900. It's a free service. It's personalised. And we not only do we give you loads of advice about employability skills and getting back into work, but we're also a signposting agency. So anything that we're not specialised in, we'll say, go speak to these people, and everything like that. So definitely contact us. Try and stay positive and try and keep active during this time. Keep yourself busy, keep yourself, any interests. And then the other thing will be is to keep creating opportunities. Okay. So, getting involved in these things today and networking and create opportunities for yourself.
Hardeep?
Contact the Citizens Advice for details on what you might be entitled to, whether you're in furlough, threatened with redundancy. We can, do a full benefits check. Again, keep positive, keep in touch with your family, reduce your stress levels, and come and join us at the Citizens Advice when it's up and running. We can help with, volunteer. We have people who volunteer.
Who are trained.
Okay, Lynn. For doing this evening.
Well, Lynn, you've got 10 seconds.
10 seconds. The lawyer can't be positive. Listen to these other 2 ladies and take advice if you're in the situation. Take advice.
Well, thank you, ladies. I'm actually surprised there's not a bookshelf in the background in any of your Zooms. This is wonderful.
The wallpaper's got bookshelves on.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Hardeep, Laura and Lynn. And thank you so much for getting in touch with your questions. I hope it has been helpful. The question answer will also be available on the BBC iPlayer. Just search Employment Special. Have a wonderful evening. We will get through this. We will. We definitely will look back and get through this. Take care and bye-bye for now.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.